California homeowners woke up to a quiet shift that could change how much they pay, what they can build, and even how their homes are protected. Starting February 2026, a wave of new property rules touches HOAs, wildfire safety, taxes, rentals, and zoning. Some changes limit fines, others reshape neighborhoods near transit, and a few directly affect insurance and resale value. These are not abstract policies. They reach into backyards, listings, tax bills, and lease notices. If you own property, plan to buy or rent out a unit, these rules decide costs, options, and risks sooner than expected, statewide now. Number 1. HOA fine caps protect homeowners. California homeowners are seeing a major shift in how homeowners associations can enforce rules starting February 2026. Under the new rule, most HOA fines for minor violations are capped at $100, preventing boards from stacking repeated penalties for small issues like trash bins or paint colors. State housing data shows HOA-related complaints have risen steadily over the last decade, with fines cited as a top source of disputes. Lawmakers say the cap is meant to rebalance power, reduce financial stress, and create clearer expectations between residents and boards. Research from consumer housing groups indicates that unpredictable HOA penalties disproportionately affect fixed-income households and first-time buyers. With the new cap, boards must now rely more on written warnings, compliance timelines, and mediation instead of immediate financial punishment. Homeowners should review their HOA bylaws early because associations are required to update enforcement language to align with the state rule. Knowing the revised process can help residents respond calmly and strategically if a notice arrives. For homeowners, the practical move is documentation. Keep records of notices, dates, and any corrective steps taken. This rule does not eliminate fines entirely, but it limits escalation and encourages resolution over revenue. If you live in an HOA community, this change reshapes daily living by reducing surprise costs and restoring predictability, especially for families budgeting tightly in California's high-cost housing market. The impact will be felt across condos, townhomes, and planned communities statewide soon today. Number 2. Mandatory disclosure for edited listing photos. California's real estate market is entering a transparency era as new rules require sellers and agents to disclose when listing photos are digitally altered or generated with artificial intelligence. Starting February 2026, images that enhance lighting, remove objects, or digitally stage rooms must be clearly labeled. State consumer research shows buyers increasingly rely on online listings for decision-making, and misleading visuals have been linked to rising cancellation rates after in-person walkthroughs. Housing studies from real estate associations indicate that photo manipulation can inflate perceived value, especially in competitive urban markets. The new rule forces honesty by requiring visible notices on listings and access to original images through links or QR codes. Homeowners preparing to sell should work closely with agents to understand what qualifies as editing versus basic color correction. Failure to disclose can trigger penalties, delayed sales, or contract disputes once buyers discover discrepancies. For buyers, this rule changes how listings should be evaluated. Instead of assuming perfection, viewers are encouraged to compare labeled images with floor plans, inspection reports, and live tours. Sellers benefit too, because transparent listings reduce renegotiations and last-minute walkaways. Practical preparation means requesting disclosure statements early and saving original photos for records. This shift aligns digital marketing with reality, helping restore confidence in California's fast-moving housing market while setting clearer expectations before anyone steps through the front door. This rule ultimately reduces friction and saves time for buyers, sellers, agents, and lenders statewide. Number 3. Wildfire safety buffer zones expand. California's wildfire regulations are tightening as a new defensible space rule takes effect in early 2026. Homeowners in designated high-risk fire zones must now maintain a clear buffer within 5 feet of all structures. This includes removing flammable plants, wooden fences, stored materials, and untreated decking. State fire data shows structure ignition often begins in this immediate zone, making small landscaping choices a major factor in home survival during fast-moving fires. Recent wildfire studies from state agencies reveal that homes with a hardened 5-foot perimeter are significantly more likely to survive embers and radiant heat. Insurance industry loss reports also indicate that properties failing basic clearance standards face higher non-renewal rates. Under the new rule, enforcement may come through insurance inspections rather than local fines. Homeowners should understand that compliance affects both safety and insurability, especially as insurers continue to reassess wildfire exposure across California. Practical preparation starts with a property walkthrough. Replace mulch with gravel, trim vegetation away from walls, and store combustible items in enclosed sheds beyond the buffer. Document changes with photos and keep receipts for mitigation work. This rule shifts wildfire defense from emergency response to everyday maintenance. By treating the 5-foot zone as a protective shield, homeowners reduce risk, stabilize insurance access, and improve long-term resilience in an increasingly fire-prone climate. Planning early helps households adapt calmly, avoid rushed expenses, and maintain compliance as inspections, renewals, and climate pressures intensify statewide annually. Number 4. Wildfire mitigation support expands. California is expanding homeowner assistance programs in 2026 to reduce wildfire losses before disasters strike. New state funding increases grants and technical support for defensible space, fire-resistant roofing, ember-resistant vents, and home-hardening upgrades. According to state wildfire loss assessments, prevention-focused investments cost significantly less than post-fire rebuilding. The updated rule prioritizes properties in very high fire severity zones and communities with repeated insurance non-renewals, shifting prevention from optional to expected preparation. Recent data from insurance and emergency management agencies shows that homes completing mitigation upgrades are more likely to retain coverage and face lower inspection hurdles. The expanded program includes simplified applications, faster reimbursements, and standardized mitigation checklists. Homeowners should monitor county fire authority notices and state housing portals for eligibility windows. Documentation is critical, including photos before and after work, contractor invoices, and inspection reports. These records may be required by insurers, lenders, or future buyers reviewing property risk history. Practical action starts with assessment. Schedule a wildfire risk evaluation through local fire departments or approved inspectors. Prioritize upgrades that reduce ember intrusion and surface ignition rather than cosmetic changes. This rule encourages long-term resilience by aligning homeowner behavior with climate reality. Financial assistance lowers barriers, but responsibility remains with property owners. Preparing early spreads costs over time, avoids emergency pricing, and strengthens community-wide fire defense as climate-driven fire seasons continue growing longer and more intense statewide each year across urban, rural, and mountain regions statewide. Number 5. ADU construction rules become easier. California is simplifying accessory dwelling unit construction starting February 2026, removing several barriers that slowed small housing projects. The updated rule eliminates owner occupancy requirements for many ADUs and junior ADUs when a unit includes its own bathroom. Parking minimums are reduced or removed for compact designs near transit or within existing structures. Housing department data shows ADUs add rental supply faster than large developments, easing pressure without changing neighborhood scale. Studies from statewide housing agencies indicate approval timelines dropped where standardized plans and clear rules were adopted. The new framework expands pre-approved designs, limits discretionary reviews, and shortens correction cycles. Homeowners planning conversions should confirm setback rules, utility connections, and fire access early. Financing research shows detached ADUs often recoup costs through rental income within several years, especially in high-demand metros and college towns. Action steps focus on preparation and paperwork. Request a site assessment, choose a compliant plan, and assemble permits before hiring contractors. Keep budgets realistic by pricing utilities and impact fees upfront. This rule supports gentle density while preserving single-family character. For owners, ADUs offer flexible uses such as rentals, multi-generational living, or home offices. Starting early helps lock contractors, avoid delays, and capture benefits as demand rises across California communities, especially CINIA permit volume, and economists project incremental affordability gains as small units spread costs, stabilize rents, and diversify housing choices for seniors, caregivers, and workers seeking proximity to jobs and transit corridors during coming years statewide, with measurable policy impact. Number 6. Property tax relief deadlines extended. California is adjusting property tax rules in 2026 to give homeowners more time after disasters and inheritance transfers. Under the new rule, families who inherit property following a declared disaster now have up to 3 years to file for property tax reassessment relief, replacing the previous 6-month window. State tax data shows many homeowners missed earlier deadlines while dealing with repairs, insurance claims, and legal delays, resulting in sudden tax spikes that strained household finances. Research from county assessors indicates that delayed filings disproportionately affected older homeowners and multi-generational families. The extended timeline allows heirs to retain lower tax assessments while stabilizing ownership during recovery periods. This rule also improves clarity around documentation, requiring counties to provide written guidance on eligibility and deadlines. Homeowners inheriting property should gather death certificates, trust documents, and proof of occupancy early, even if filing happens later. Clear records reduce disputes and speed approvals once applications are submitted. Practical planning centers on awareness and timing. Contact the county assessor soon after a transfer or disaster declaration to confirm required forms. Track deadlines on a calendar and store copies digitally. This rule reduces pressure during emotionally and financially difficult periods while protecting long-term housing stability. For many families, preserving favorable tax treatment determines whether a home can be kept or must be sold. The change reflects a shift toward flexibility, acknowledging that recovery and inheritance transitions rarely follow short administrative timelines in real life across California communities today.
Number 7. Transit-oriented zoning overrides. California is reshaping urban neighborhoods through expanded transit-oriented zoning rules taking effect in 2026. Under this change, cities must allow higher-density residential development near major transit stops, including rail stations and high-frequency bus corridors. Minimum parking requirements are reduced or eliminated, and height limits may be increased. State housing research shows land near transit is underused, while commute times and housing shortages continue growing across metropolitan regions. Planning studies indicate that housing built close to transit lowers household transportation costs and reduces traffic congestion. The new rule limits local government's ability to deny qualifying projects, shifting approval toward objective standards. Homeowners living near transit should expect more development proposals, even in areas previously zoned for single-family use. Understanding local maps and station radius boundaries helps residents anticipate where changes may occur. Practical adaptation involves engagement rather than surprise. Attend planning meetings, review proposed projects, and understand how setbacks, shadows, and noise rules apply. For property owners, this rule can increase land value or create opportunities to add units. For others, it changes neighborhood character over time. The policy aims to concentrate growth where infrastructure already exists, reducing sprawl and wildfire exposure. By aligning housing with transit access, California is betting on long-term efficiency gains, cleaner air, and improved affordability.
Awareness allows homeowners to plan renovations, sales, or investments with zoning certainty rather than reacting after approvals are issued across city corridors statewide over the coming decade. Number 8. ADU rent increase transparency rules. California is tightening rules around rent increases for properties that include accessory dwelling units beginning in 2026. The new requirement mandates clear written notice, standardized calculation methods, and documented delivery timelines before any increase takes effect. Housing Department data shows confusion around ADU rent hikes has driven tenant complaints and legal disputes. The rule applies whether the ADU is detached, converted, or part of a primary residence, closing loopholes that previously allowed inconsistent practices. Research from housing advocacy groups indicates tenants often receive short notice or unclear explanations, making budgeting difficult. Under the updated rule, homeowners must specify the current rent, the new rent, the percentage change, and the effective date. Notices must be delivered using approved methods and retained for records. Owners with multiple units should audit their paperwork now because penalties may apply even when increases fall within legal caps. Practical compliance starts with organization. Create templates, track notice dates, and store copies digitally. For tenants, this rule improves predictability and reduces sudden housing shocks. For homeowners, it lowers dispute risk and supports smoother long-term tenancies. The change reflects a broader push toward transparency in California's rental ecosystem. Clear communication protects relationships and finances on both sides. As ADUs continue expanding statewide, consistent rent practices help stabilize neighborhoods while balancing homeowner flexibility with tenant protection in an increasingly competitive housing market. Early awareness allows better planning for renewals, inspections, and budgeting cycles across cities, counties, and mixed-use properties statewide under evolving housing oversight standards now. Number 9. Property tax planning shifts with SALT changes. California homeowners are adjusting financial strategies as federal and state tax alignment changes in 2026. The updated state and local tax deduction allows higher combined deductions for property and income taxes, reshaping how ownership costs are evaluated. Tax policy data shows the previous cap limited benefits for high-cost states, pushing some owners toward complex workarounds. The new structure restores broader deductibility, changing annual cash flow calculations and long-term affordability projections. Economic research indicates that higher deductibility improves household liquidity, especially for middle and upper-middle income owners carrying large property tax bills. Lenders and financial planners are already updating models to reflect improved after-tax affordability. Homeowners should review escrow statements, reassess withholding, and coordinate with tax professionals to avoid under- or overpayment. Proper planning ensures benefits are realized without triggering penalties or audit risk during filing seasons. Practical preparation centers on record-keeping and forecasting. Track property tax payments, confirm assessed values, and model scenarios before major purchases or refinances. This rule does not reduce taxes owed, but it changes how much can be recovered through deductions. For many California households, the shift influences decisions about buying, holding, or upgrading property. Understanding the interaction between state taxes and federal deductions helps homeowners make calmer, better-informed financial choices as housing costs and interest rates continue fluctuating across the state in coming years. Early planning supports stability, reduces surprises, and strengthens long-range confidence for owners navigating complex tax environments. Number 10. Mobile home residency disclosure standards. California is strengthening protections for mobile home residents in 2026 by requiring clearer, earlier disclosures before occupancy or purchase. Park owners must now provide standardized written summaries covering space rent, utility pass-throughs, rules, fees, and resale limits well in advance of signing. State housing reports show mobile home residents often face surprise charges after move-in, creating instability for seniors and fixed-income households who rely on predictable costs. Research from consumer protection agencies indicates inconsistent disclosures contributed to disputes and forced relocations. The new standard mandates plain language formatting, minimum review periods, and signed acknowledgments confirming receipt. Disclosures must also include contact information for enforcement agencies and clear explanations of rent control applicability. Prospective residents should request documents early, review escalation clauses, and compare terms across parks. Sellers benefit from fewer post-sale conflicts, while buyers gain clarity before committing savings. Practical steps focus on diligence and documentation. Keep copies of disclosures, track timelines, and seek clarification in writing before closing. For current residents, updated rules require parks to provide revised disclosures when terms change, supporting transparency over time. This reform recognizes mobile homes as long-term housing, not temporary arrangements. By standardizing information and timing, California aims to reduce confusion, improve bargaining power, and stabilize communities where residents often own homes but rent land. Awareness helps households plan budgets, avoid disputes, and protect tenure security across the state. Clear rules support fair negotiations and informed decisions for families navigating complex mobile home markets statewide today, confidently. California's 2026 property rules reveal a clear direction. The state is tightening consumer protections, pushing fire prevention, expanding housing flexibility, and increasing transparency across ownership and renting. Each rule on its own may feel manageable, but together they reshape how homeowners plan, budget, and make decisions. HOA limits reduce surprise costs, disclosure rules restore confidence, wildfire standards protect both homes and insurance access, and zoning changes quietly redefine neighborhood growth. These updates reflect rising climate risk, housing shortages, and affordability pressure, all converging at the property level. For homeowners, preparation matters more than reaction. Reviewing HOA policies, documenting property conditions, understanding zoning maps, and tracking tax implications can prevent stress later. For buyers and investors, these rules change risk profiles and opportunity timelines. For renters and mobile home residents, clear disclosures and notice requirements improve stability. The common thread is predictability. California is moving away from gray areas and towards standardized expectations that affect daily housing decisions. If this breakdown helped clarify what's coming, like the video, subscribe for updates, and share your thoughts in the comments. Tell us which rule affects you most. For deeper dives into California housing, wildfire planning, and property strategy, watch the next video on the channel. Staying informed now can save money, time, and hard choices later.